10%, 10%, 10%, 10%, 10% for the big guy. I'm creepy and I'm sleepy. I swore that she was 18. Come on, Jack. Biden crime family. Neat. Creep. Thief.
What's up, guys? It's Benny. While many American presidents are accused of being racist, one of the features of Joe Biden's senility is that we got rid of all of the illusions and could just hear sort of the raw ramblings of Joe Biden. Like that one time when he said that poor kids are just as smart as white kids.
The notion that somehow if you're poor, you cannot do it. Poor kids are just as bright and just as talented as white kids.
You see, when the dementia, the Alzheimer's, and the Parkinson's start to rip away the fabric of the brain, you just end up saying what you believe. Like when Joe Biden went off on a story about corn pop. The story of corn pop is the story of Joe Biden living in a segregated city at a segregated pool, issuing a racial slur to a young black man about the amount of pomade in his hair. And then he challenged that young black man to a fight to the death, where Joe Biden was going to kill him with a rusty razor blade and a chain. To hang him with the chain. Don't get mad at me. That's the literal story of corn pop. This is the story of Joe Biden's upbringing. I don't use the R word around here, but literally Joe Biden is by definition racist. Maybe this is why once he got into office, he was used as a vassal for extreme racism against white people, which is what DEI is, right? Maybe this was the price that Joe Biden paid. Joe Biden, the same guy who linked arms with the last members of the KKK inside of the Senate and eulogized them at their funeral, so on and so forth. The guy's name was Robert Byrd. Anyway, the point is that Joe Biden has no problem trying to make up for the sins of his unwoke past. And now those sins are coming home to roost as Joe Biden's penance for his past, like old-timey, almost hysterical, like yarn spinning stories of his racist past. Now, whistleblowers are coming forward telling a very different story about Joe Biden. Biden's race-based loans hurt white farmers, whistleblower exclusive. USDA gave loan relief to only minority farmers. White farmers sued. Federal court ruled the policy was illegal. New IRA relief, again, targeted the same minority farmers. Well, wouldn't you know? It seems like the systemic racism that we've been hearing and mewling and bitching and burning our cities down over is true. It's just not what they say it is. We do have systemic racism in this country. It's racism against white people. While Donald Trump has spoken out against most of the Biden administration's policies, he's been particularly enraged by what's seen as former President Joe Biden's endorsement of diversity, equity, inclusion initiatives in the government. However, Trump didn't even know that the Biden administration had managed to implement DEI policies involving American farmers. It remained a secret until now. Okay, what does the reporting say? The reporting says that a whistleblower says that our tax dollars were used to pay off farm loans only for black and Hispanic people, not for white people. It's literally the racialized policies that the left complained about. It's in the opposite direction. I met with a USDA whistleblower, and he said the Biden administration forgave farm loans only non-white farmers. They were told it was illegal. They continued to secretly do it. Kept it hushed for obvious implications. Race loan-based forgiveness is clearly illegal. A whistleblower comes forward, the Department of Agriculture, to blow the whistle on discriminatory loan practices managed by Joe Biden and acted right before he left office that forgave debt as long as you weren't white. Let's listen to the reporting.
President Trump is not quiet about his criticism of the Biden administration. In fact, he's usually quite the opposite. There is arguably, however, nothing quite as harsh as Trump's anger over Biden's DEI policies. Well, in a News Nation exclusive, senior national correspondent Brian Entin spoke to a manager at the Federal Farm Bureau who was blowing the whistle He says a Biden-era law appears to be helping all farmers, but in reality is only helping some. And he showed us the documents to prove it.
When former President Joe Biden left Washington, D.C., he was leaving behind a DEI secret involving American farmers and $800 million in taxpayer money. And a United States Department of Agriculture whistleblower is now sounding the alarm.
It was to pay off anyone who wasn't a white male's loan. That was the only qualification for this loan forgiveness.
And what was the reaction?
So it was really silent. They were trying to keep this hushed because of the obvious implications of race-based loan forgiveness.
Race-based loan forgiveness. It's in black and white, buried in the American Rescue Plan Act. The United States Secretary of Agriculture shall provide a payment in an amount up to 120% of the outstanding indebtedness of each socially disadvantaged farmer or rancher. The act explicitly lays out who's considered socially disadvantaged.
So just to be clear, if you were American Indian, Alaskan Native, Asian Black, African American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander, Hispanic, or Latino, and you were in that group, you were told you didn't have to pay your bills, essentially?
Yes, that's correct, and that your loan would be forgiven up to 120% of the loan value.
To me, it was combating racism with more racism. I couldn't believe that it was happening in today's age.
James Dunlap owns a small family farm in Baker City, Oregon. He works 2 other jobs to keep his farm afloat, but did not qualify for the loan forgiveness because he's white.
I knew what they were saying was that minority farmers were going to have their loans forgiven for no reason other than they decided to, they being the government. So
I love this report. Look at this clip. Look where this guy lives. And while this seems like a dream for many men, this is what most homes look like where I come from in Iowa. This is the life of the farmer, the humble life of the farmer. The Biden administration hates this man because of his skin color and discriminated against him, giving huge favor to other farmers because of their skin color. Again, it is the exact opposite of what they claim to stand against. It's the kind of stuff that happens in South Africa and Rwanda. It's the literal definition of racial justice. It's evil and it's illegal. People need to go to jail. They were sued and lost. Here's the farmer explaining why this lawsuit was able to go forward and be won in such a quick order. Let's go.
And how much money they had nothing to do with it.
as far as I understand, not at all. It wasn't about hardship. It wasn't about financial situations at all. It was purely what box you checked under that ethnicity line on your application.
If you checked a non-white box, you got the free money no matter how rich you were. James and other white farmers sued the Biden administration and were successful. The loan forgiveness for any farmer who's not white was stopped. The judge writing in his decision, it was an actual constitutional harm that cannot be undone. And James and other white farmers will suffer the harm of being excluded from eligibility for that debt relief program solely on the basis of his race. That harm he has shown is irreparable. But this is where things get interesting. The Biden administration was not ready to give up. They passed the Inflation Reduction Act to help farmers who couldn't pay their loans. It was supposed to help all farmers, but News Nation has learned all farmers were not told about it. News Nation obtaining a copy of this email that was sent out to share information about new payments and/or loan modifications that may assist you. But here's the catch. Our whistleblower says it was only sent to the minority farmers, aka the socially disadvantaged group. And he says USDA workers were even instructed to tell that group to stop paying their loans because they would still be forgiven. The whistleblower says none of the white farmers he works with received the email.
They got nothing. You know, it might not meet the legal definition of fraud, but it isn't right. It was discriminatory, it was unethical, and the people who pushed it are still in charge of the agency.
They're still in charge?
Yes. At our national office, they're still, Trump hasn't got rid of them.
The Trump administration is thankfully responding to all of this. And there's obviously got to be criminal charges. This has got to be a massive, massive civil rights case. Like, you can't think of anything more discriminatory or illegal. Civil Rights Act is like pretty plainly written that it's illegal for the government to discriminate based on race. It's precisely what they're doing. And they continue to do it, I mean, obviously, against Trump's best efforts. But this one's got to really piss him off. Here we go.
We reached out to the United States Department of Agriculture. They did not respond to our specific questions or our questions about what the whistleblower said, that some of these DEI policies still remain in effect and in some of the documentation. But they did send us this statement, Elizabeth. I want to read to you in part. It says, it is absurd that while the Biden administration was driving up inflation, American taxpayers were forced to fund billions in woke DEI initiatives. No one should be shocked that Biden weaponized bipartisan farm programs to discriminate and provide taxpayer dollars to one group based on race and not on merit. On day one, Secretary Rollins issued a memo to rescind all DEI programs. Instead, USDA is reprioritizing unity, equality, meritocracy, and colorblind policies. And the USDA says they are also reviewing the Inflation Reduction Act funding to ensure that that money is now going out to all farmers equally instead of just one specific group.
All
Elizabeth?
right, Brian Entin, thank you so much.
Will it ever stop? Well, no, unless you arrest people, right? You have to investigate, handcuff, and lock up. I want arrests. People need to be arrested for this. It's the only way that it stops. Essentially, yes, that's correct. Loan would be forgiven up to 120% of the loan value. Got it. Just for black people. Donald Trump loves farmers. Farmers won Donald Trump the presidency. These big states, especially Rust Belt states like Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, the majority of people that live in these states, they're like, they work in some type of agriculture or ag-associated business. Donald Trump signing a massive John Deere tractor with a massive signature here. This is something that Donald Trump's not going to stand for. So we pray for those arrests. If you want people that discriminated against white farmers to be arrested by including but not limited to a racist Joe Biden who initiated these policies, then please like, share, and subscribe to this channel as we'll continue to cover this topic and ask that we are all simply judged equally. It's your boy Ben.